Cool. Well, yeah, this is the first episode of the Premier Music Podcast. We got JRynecki here. JRynecki.
Yes.
Next to me. So, John, just tell me a little bit about yourself, a quick introduction to the audience, and like your kind of favorite types of music and what you do in the scene right now.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. Well, I'm a deep house DJ and music producer here in Chicago and from Panama. And I mean, I don't know if this sounds snobby. I just like good music. It doesn't really have to be prescribed to any particular genre. I really am called to like sounds with like that are a bit more organic in the terms of like classic jazz, piano, that kind of thing, those kind of vibes. And that's the kind of genre of music that I really like making and listening to as well. What was the other question? Yes.
I mean, we just like go into what you just told us.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting that you had roots in Panama, and you told me you also lived in Germany at one point.
Yep.
So like, how does those different backgrounds influence your sound and like your taste in music?
Yeah, great question. Definitely from living in Latin America, the Latin flair into things. Like I've always been a dancer. I have like Hispanic heritage, so it's always been something that's like a lot of like liveliness, dancing, and yeah, just enjoying music.
Mm-hmm.
And then from
definitely high energy with that.
Oh, for sure.
Kind of thing.
And then also lived in Panama for 10 years, Puerto Rico for like a year or two, and then moved to Germany when I was like 11 or 12, US military parents. And then in Germany is where I fell in love with electronic music. Our bus driver in Germany had electronic music on the bus at all times, like Cascada, Darude, yeah, all the stuff that are now classics. And that's where I fell in love with electronic music, and that's kind of where that started with between Latin music and going into like electronic, and kind of a lot of ways it's led to where I am now.
Sure. Latin house is pretty popular in the music scene right now. So like, what do you think are some unique aspects of that kind of music? Like, did you play more of a Latin flair in Panama when you play sets there?
Not always, because I would say like people there are probably used to a more Latin sound. Wherever I play, I try to showcase something that maybe people aren't able to experience. And in Panama, I definitely I'll play like a little bit of Latin to kind of like draw people in, but then it'll transition into things that are much more deeper. I think that's just how I play in general. It's like, call it allure, or call it like, I like to think that some of my music slices a small edge of pop. And I don't think pop is a bad thing. Pop is something that it's
popular for a reason.
It's popular, yeah. Exactly. The name is pop.
Right.
But I think I like to use it as a gateway for people to experience things that are like the true magic of electronic music. And so wherever I am, I play like a way that invites people into the dance floor, and then once I have you, show you things you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's super important, like showing people or working towards something that no one else is really doing, or like something that other people can't deliver the way you can.
Yeah.
You have to have like some kind of personalization to everything you do. And I think you have that in your music.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
But your newest song, Creative Mind, came out a couple months ago, right?
December, yeah.
That was actually a really interesting song to listen to. Just kind of talks about being in the moment and not doubting yourself. So how do you kind of stay so positive and like stay forward and focused on your goals in music with real life happening all around you all the time?
Yeah, I think that's like $1 million question in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So that song it came in a time when I was also, I guess as an artist, you're always going through doubts. And the quote, the vocal sample is like a Mac Miller sample of him talking about creativity.
Nice. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's a really, really cool sample. And he's just talking about creativity and doubts, and like how do you deal with them, how do you navigate them. And what he suggests is like to really just be vulnerable and like show yourself, don't be afraid to show people who you are. And that's kind of to answer your question. I think, how do I navigate creative doubts? And right now I'm going through a little bit of a block in terms of writing or creating music, but I'm also focused on the long game. And that's something that when I initially said I'm going to go full time into this, it's like I had this like thirst, like I need to be successful tomorrow, and versus like, oh, like success is coming. It's already on the way. It's already like I will be that within I don't know how many years, but it's not. It's just not trying to be outcome focused and more like focus on the learning and the growth and celebrating those moments versus trying to get somewhere. Because if you try to think of it like that, you're always just going to be going up the corporate ladder or going up the ladder in a way that it's just hard because sometimes you catch yourself. I catch myself all the time. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm in the rat race again. And just focusing on the long game, that I will be in this for the rest of my life. And I love this because I enjoy it.
Yeah. Your social media posts, and you also have some blog posts just about kind of like the spiritual aspect of everything that you do, right? So like how important is it to focus on like the journey being the destination, not just like working towards like that one thing that you have in mind? It's really all about what we're doing right now and enjoying the moment, right?
Right.
So like, how do you focus on that?
Yeah, that's hard. Because I think a lot of the industry now is, especially for me, I think I felt this leaving COVID, that this like, maybe it was just me, but I think it's something that I've also noticed in the industry that this get rich tomorrow or get rich quick or just trying to get somewhere as fast as possible because once you're there, then you'll be happy. I wrote like something that I didn't really share too much. It's on my personal website. It's called, and I think of this all the time in terms of my career. It's called The Mountain. And I think of my music career as like a never-ending mountain. It just keeps going up. And there's a spot on there for every single person. And some people think there's not enough spots. But really, there's enough spots for everybody. You just have to keep going. It doesn't stop. And once you get to a spot where you really wanted to go, just kind of keep going. And it's never going to stop. So I think thinking of my career in that regard, I think maybe I could change the narrative of a mountain, like cold, frigid, to something else. But that's just something I never thought of till right now. But that thinking in that way that it's never ending. And getting somewhere is only going to, being outcomes focused is not going to satisfy those happiness, you know?
Sure. And I feel like your music is kind of a soundtrack to all that, you know? It's something very like thought-provoking and like cohesive through mixes that I was listening to. That's kind of how I felt about it.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, maybe just like talk about some general themes of those mixes and the music that you love the most. What do you usually play?
Yeah, so my purpose as a DJ is to really get people out of their heads and really into their bodies. I didn't come up with that. That's what I do. I heard that in that movie, We Are Your Friends, the Zac Efron movie. I love that movie. It's a little bit cheesy, but I love it.
I was at the premiere of that movie
back really?
in the day, yeah.
That's a good one.
That's the only time I saw it.
Yeah, I've watched it.
But I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I watch it every couple of years, and it's like, there's some aspects of as an artist that I really appreciate and enjoy. And just about that, like one of my favorite moments ever as an attendee, I went attending Movement 2018 in Detroit, and I'd been a DJ for a couple years, but nothing like I never thought like, I could be a DJ full time. I was walking around Movement with some friends, like, what are we gonna do? I was like heartbroken from this girl that I'd seen like a couple months back, and she was at the festival, and I was all sad. And then I just show up to see Laurent Garnier, like, let's go see this French guy. Like, okay, apparently he's a legend. And for me, it was like a light bulb switched in my head after that performance. It was one of the most empowering, magical sets of my life. Everybody's had one of those sets, like, wow, like, what was that? And for me, that kind of, it lit a fire under my ass to kind of, oh wow, he kind of helped me realize that I have magic too, in a way. I don't know if it's a bit woo-woo, but
no, embrace it. I like that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And so like me as a DJ, I want it every time I play, it's to make sure that to give someone that space in the dance floor to take. So like we're so busy, we have so many things going on. It's so important to like dance, to just like have that somatic release, or to just be so present that you are in flow, that you're just be able to. Because when you think you solve problems by just like thinking about them and doing them, and that's maybe one way to do it, but the real way to kind of like solve problems for me that I've noticed that other people kind of say as well is to be present, to
It's like the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
One of them at least.
And dancing is one way to do that.
Yeah.
Yoga, exercise. For the longest time, I thought DJ or like being on the dance floor. So I chased the party for a long time, was chasing that feeling, which is not healthy, but was something that I recognized that you could do that through hiking, you could do that through yoga, you could do that through a number of different means, and that's what I'm really after.
Yeah, I like the idea of like having like a mix of both very digestible music for anybody to enjoy, and then like bringing them in and showing them the possibilities of like an amazing DJ set. You know, because like a lot of people probably enjoy house music, but they've never been in that state of euphoria and just like being there in the moment, and just like being so happy and not worrying about anything else, right?
Yeah.
And like music can make that happen for people. I know you talk about that a lot, like in your posts and like your thoughts on that blog post. But yeah, I mean, Movement's a great place. I've definitely had those moments there. It's one of my favorite festivals. What are some live events that you've been to that really had an impact on you?
Yeah, definitely Movement quite a few times. It's hard because I'm a little bit of a, consider myself just a little bit of a music snob, and sometimes once you get to a pinnacle of something that's so good, it's like, oh, it's never going to get better. But it does get better, and you have to just maybe find those places where it does. You have a DJ who can just do that to you and like get you out of your body, out of your head and into your body. But I'm in Panama. There's this festival called Reactor Vanal, and it's near this beach called Playa Vanal. And that's my family had been we've been visiting this beach since I was a kid. And it's my favorite beach in the world. And then come 2003, a bunch of foreigners moved in, bought a bunch of land and became like a music destination in Panama. And this festival, I discovered it maybe like, I don't know, just before COVID, and it really started picking up again over the last 2 years. And over the last few years, I've been living between Panama and Chicago, initially Panama, Colorado, and then Panama, Chicago. And I really started to fall into the community there in Playa Vanal. And in terms of when a good DJ plays there, it is magical. People are not on their phones. People are very much like present in the zone. And this German DJ, Mira, she's played there twice over the last 2 years, life-changing. And that's one place. Also, Berlin is a great place to see great music. And yeah, places where I definitely not in my head.
Did you see some shows in Germany when you lived out there?
Yeah.
What would be like something you would recommend for me never being there? It's like definitely a destination that it's pretty high on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Like what were the best places to go to for someone that has no idea about the culture really?
My favorite was this place, what's it called? It's on, it's this minimal club. It's like on, I have to think of it. If it comes to me, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But this, obviously Berghain, if you can get in, Berghain is phenomenal.
How do I do that?
You gotta go with the German, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of wear things that are maybe a bit more like edgy, don't look American, which is hard to do, don't speak English. But then once you get in, the vibe is pristine. You may like brush up against somebody and like people will be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. And it's very affordable and it's like, the vibes are fantastic.
Okay.
Really good times.
Yeah. So that's like, what kind of music would that be at Berghain?
Really anything. There's a number of floors. You walk in, the first floor, it's like a lounge area at times. Sometimes there's a stage. You can also, on the main level, there's also like an outdoor area in the summer, which is just primo vibes. Like actually the whole building is. But then you go up the stairs and that's like the techno dungeon. Not dungeon, but it's like the main techno area. It feels like Blade from that scene in Blade, with all the vampires. And then you go up one more flight, and that's the Panorama Bar, and that's another very sexy. It's all of it, all kinds of electronic music, classic house. People wouldn't know it for techno, I think, but it's definitely.
Right. Yeah.
There's probably not one genre that just good electronic music, really.
But I feel like techno could really open up your mind to different possibilities of music. You know, like an appreciation of a good techno set will definitely like. Make you more creative, like in terms of the house music you enjoy also.
Yeah, enjoy different genres.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely important to not be tied down into one label or anything.
Yes.
And yeah, your stuff is more like deep house, a little bit of tech house and progressive, right? So maybe talk about your favorite artists. I know Acid Poly is one of them.
Yes.
Who are kind of your go-to labels or artists that you really enjoy finding music from?
Yeah. So there's always like the DJs and producers, and so like my favorite performers. So like Acid Poly for sure, Lauren Garnier, Mira, a few others. But in terms of like the people that I look to, in terms of for music that I love, there's this guy from the UK called Berlioz. I think everybody likes his music. You just haven't heard it yet.
Okay.
It's just the sexiest kind of music that you could play on a date. You could play for your mom. You could play it. It's incredible. And that's kind of some of my favorite music. I actually have a friend in Berlin. He's Australian. Hugo. He goes by Hollow, Holo. And I found him in 2021. And some of the most beautiful music still, every year on Spotify since 2021, he's my number one on Spotify. But luckily I've been able to meet him. I booked him and brought him to Chicago in 2023. Played at Arbella, and that was a fantastic time, and now he's a friend of mine. So was able to reach out and say, hey, like, I love your music, and we developed a friendship through there. But yeah, Berlioz, Hollow, it's hard to describe, but a lot of it's like just organic, sexy elements that I think anyone can kind of really like and appreciate.
Sure. And you said you reached out to one of these guys, kind of like a cold message on the internet, right? I mean, that's such an amazing aspect of the world and like the music scene right now, how approachable something like that is. And everyone's just literally one message away.
Exactly.
And if you can connect with them that way, so many possibilities and doors can open in the future. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Yes.
But like, I'm sure people will be listening to this thinking like, wow, maybe I should reach out to so-and-so and show them my music, tell them what I'm up to. But how would you do that most effectively as an artist yourself who does like mentorship programs? What do you like to see from someone who's like kind of pitching themselves to you? Like, what do you think really separates people and makes them successful in that way?
It's pretty simple. I would say it's give more than you get. And there's a recipe that I learned. And it basically, the formula is give, give, get. So you give at least twice more than you ask for. And so like with asking for, reaching out to my friend, reaching out to Hollow, for example, I just really wanted to appreciate his music. And I also said, hey, if you're ever in the United States, I'd love to bring you to Chicago. And he's like, hey, I'll be in Chicago. I'll be in the US in the summer. Let's like start a conversation with my manager. And really, I guess like genuine appreciation and just really caring. And this also happened again with Elliot Moriarty. I brought him to play here in Chicago. He's a guy from the UK. I love his music. I reached out to him, and then eventually we were able to develop a friendship. And me and Alfred partnered to throw an event in August, and it was like a huge hit. And I would say, yeah, just genuinely be curious about them. Reach out to people that you care, like that you actually want to kind of like build a relationship to. And if they don't respond, then like, hey, whatever. But if they do, you never know. It's like could change your life or theirs.
Yeah, for sure. You talked about the events that you've thrown. You've also played a lot in Chicago. So maybe talk about the music scene here. Like, what have you really enjoyed about being here? You have perspective on other different cities also that you played in. But this is the birthplace of house music.
Yes.
And we have an amazing scene. You know all about it. We both do. But yeah, like, how much have you enjoyed, being able to play at venues you probably frequented as a fan for a long time? Now you're on the other side of things. What's been like some special moments for you in that?
Well, Chicago is a truly special place with electronic music. And being around the world and you say you're from Chicago and like, oh, you're a DJ from Chicago? Whoa, that's cool. And it's like, it's just some respect and brownie points that you get from being from here and enjoying the scene and really, like the world does appreciate us in it, but I think like in the US, maybe like people tend to overlook. It's like, oh, what's going on in Chicago? It's like, oh, a lot. Like, but I guess some things that I have learned to appreciate from my time here, I guess just.
Or like, what's been one of your favorite shows? I'm sure they're all amazing, but
yeah.
What's been like a really special one lately?
I guess this year, I recently had a doubleheader, played with a new friend of mine, Kai Castro, at Arbella, and then I was reached out to play at to close for Rodriguez Jr. at Smoke and Mirrors, and just the doubleheader between the two venues was so fun. It felt really special. And also, Rodriguez Jr., he's like an absolute legend. I love his music, and I love he's had a huge impact on me. Once I saw him play at Estate here in 2018 or 2019.
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Cool
Estate.
place.
Yeah, it was. And it was like I don't know who was playing before him, but everybody was just like, it was like a casual house party. People are just like looking around, and then he comes on, and everybody's energy is just drawn to him. It's like, whoa, like it was a very cool thing to see. And I've just huge respect for the guy, and being able to close after him, and like he was so nice. He was like a wonderful human being. That's a really fantastic one. And another really memorable one, I've had many over the last year, but I think last summer, my first main gig back after coming back from Panama, I played for Rituals at Bridgeport
Arts Center?
Yeah, that place is phenomenal. And I opened the main hall before Adam Rostek and Serge Devant. I played after Tim Green, and that was a dream performance. Because there's a really cool moment where like people would come up in the elevator, and every single time like the floor would fill in, and it was like a boost of dopamine, and it was like, oh yeah, it was fantastic.
How many hours of music was that of DJing the night of Rodriguez Jr.?
Oh wow, it was exhausting.
What's the longest that you've ever played? And like, how is that? What do you prefer? Like, what's like your ideal set length?
Probably.
Tough question.
At least 2 hours.
Yeah, okay.
At least 2 hours, because you can really give a performance. But I also like the amount of limited, so it's like a compact story. I think the most that I'd be comfortable playing to tell a compact story would probably be like 4 hours. Mm-hmm. I don't get to do that often, but I think like a 3-hour set is like a genuine story that was, you got to see my life, and I got to tell you that.
Yep, got to tell a story for sure.
Exactly.
But you also have Revive Collective. Mm-hmm. We're having like a little DJ set after this with Revive Collective and Premier Music Podcast. Mm-hmm. We're gonna post a full mix. But this is what, the 5th or 6th anniversary coming up?
6 years.
6 years, okay.
Yes.
So tell us about Revive, what do you do?
Oh man. Revive has a very soft spot in my heart. And one about my backstory, I think like growing up, I have like U.S. military parents, like I love my parents, they love me. But one of the things that I think it was, I don't know what, I probably told them at one point, like, hey, I want to be an artist. And I knew that from a young age, that I wanted to be in the arts some way, somehow. And I was told, hey, Johnny, you can't be an artist because it doesn't make money. I was like, oh, cool, I guess I won't be an artist. And that was like a truth for most of my life. And it's not something I really challenged. And then until my late 20s, and with Revive, one of our core tenets from the start was everyone is a creator. And for me, I remember like, I think it was Matt McClone, one of the other founders, he now lives in LA, that he came up with. And I was like, my ego was sort of like, that's not true. Like, oh, like that. And I didn't say anything, obviously. But then like, the more we threw the events, like, it's like, wait a minute, I'm a creator. Holy shit, everybody's a creator. We had one event where we had, the largest event we had, massive budget. We had gold cap, like organic, deep, like Eastern deep house. He played at this massive warehouse of 700 people in like Goose Island. And then we left out these chalk, and people were drawing on the floor. It was like the most wonderful thing. Everybody was enabling and being a creator in the moment. And it was wonderful. And we're after COVID, we all kind of like split up. We all went kind of different directions. There's a few people who are still here from the original group, but it's still like more, it was founded as a community for artists, by artists, and creators. And I think we're due for a little bit of a rebrand, but it's definitely something that I think I'll always be a part of and always have a soft spot in my heart for.
Yeah, what do you think like the future could hold for that, and like what ways do you see it evolving? Do you have any like dreams, with Revive Collective?
Yeah, we had a retreat in 2021 that was like a very much like DIY. We rented a house in the border of like New Mexico, Arizona.
Oh, awesome.
It was so
that
sick.
sounds cool.
Yes, and I also at the time didn't really know what is a retreat? What is this? It's like, so I was still working the entire week. I didn't really take time off because I didn't know what we were getting into. And it was, that was one of the best weeks of my entire life. And doing another retreat, also doing things that are educational focused, not just party focused. So I think one idea that I'd like to have, depending on funding, is to bring a group from Berlin. They're called Cura, C-U-R-A, Berlin, and they do workshops around the world at either ADE or MUTEC. And their thing is called like How to Fail Better. And would like to do something to bring them in to lead a workshop, followed by a party at the end, and just have it be like educational into not just because I love partying and I love throwing events, but I think for me, I really want to do things that like help move the needle with professionals and to help give back the knowledge and the education that I wanted when I started too.
I think I know the perfect segue to talk about next.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell us about CEMC. So we got a big conference coming up in Chicago in a couple of months. John's a big part of it. Chicago Electronic Music Conference.
Yes.
So yeah, take it from here. Let's hear about it.
I'm one of the co-founders with Nikhil Gudwani, Matt Pest. Matt Pest runs the Blocks office, an underground ticketing platform. Nikhil runs Athey, a amazing label here in Chicago. And we're joined by a number of like other people on the leadership team, like Ken Sheldon, who one of the founders of Obscure, like one of the best techno organizations here in Chicago. They closed up shop recently, but that's like we have so much experience in terms of like event planning. And this came about in the summer of 2023, right before I left my job in tech. There was an event on my mind that I wanted to do. There was something that I was like, I want to do an event where it's like people are learning, it was essentially, it was a conference. I didn't have a name for it. I had the idea of doing it at this place called Public Works on North Avenue, and just have it be like a 5-6 hour event where people can come learn how to DJ, come learn from professionals in the industry. And the weekend, so I was working at a cannabis tech startup, and it was like high intensity, super, just like soul draining work. It was like, people make a lot of money. I was making, good money, but it was also just like I was dying. I hated what I was doing. And the weekend before I was let go, I was on a train like planning this event, sort of like trying to type out, okay, what's gonna look like, who's gonna be involved. And I remember just like trying to like type out what was gonna happen. And then a part of me is like, no, don't, just close this laptop, just like start thinking about how this next week at work is gonna go. And I closed my laptop, and it felt like the universe just felt sad. It's like no, like I could hear, like it was a really powerful moment for me. And that following week, I approached my boss at my day job at the time, and I said, hey, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think, can you fire me? And they're like, oh, actually, we're thinking about firing you. So like, let's just go ahead and do that. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Because I could not do that. It's like, for me, the mission was not. You just reached
the point, it wasn't working anymore.
Exactly. The mission was not aligned with what I wanted. And then by that point, I started talking with Matt Pest. This is summer of 2023. Started talking with Matt Pest why there's no networking events here in Chicago. Then I really started getting to hang out with Nikhil. And I remember like we were at House in the Harbor, August of 2023. And I was like, Nikhil was sitting on the floor, and I was like about to leave. And he's like, yo, this should be a conference. I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm in. Like, let's go. So it was like definitely a number of different ideas and people coming together to kind of make this happen. We created the logo with Jace Inman. He does lighting for the Green Machine parties here in Chicago. And I was at ADE. We just got the first logo. Then this was October of 2023. And it's like, wow, it's
nice. Yeah. I like it.
This is happening, okay. Yeah. So long story short, like it's been coming for a while. After having attended two ADEs later, Amsterdam Dance Event, it's now an opportunity. Like I've seen so much of how there's a market for it. People love the educational side of things. People need it. I think the reason it hasn't happened here yet is because maybe it's not profitable. That's why some maybe bigger people who throw events here maybe not see it as like a worthwhile endeavor. But honestly, it's like maybe if it's not money making, that's not why we're doing this. We're doing this because we really care. There's so much collective experience here to pass on and pass back, which is why the reason why behind this.
What do you think are some elements that you bring to CEMC, like the whole project that you kind of saw missing in other conferences, or maybe really, what are you like really drilling down on at the conference? Like what are the main themes?
Yeah, good question. I would say the main For this one, the main theme is to really celebrate Chicago and the underground community of Chicago, because there's a lot of great talent that's just not celebrated, or a lot of it's maybe potentially overlooked. People don't know. So I would say like there's a whole generation of people who never have attended underground warehouse events, and
Yeah, we need that back in Chicago.
I think we do. It's like I think Chicago has every promoter will tell you we have a venue shortage, and it is probably due to the fact that it's just financially unsustainable to find a warehouse that you put all your money in, and then you try to throw this event, you promote it, you get people there, you book an artist, you get DJs, and then all of a sudden the cops show up at 2 a.m, and then you lose all that money because you didn't pay them off or something. Like that happens, then that's just not a sustainable business model. You can't do that. So everybody since COVID has just been, okay, let's just play above ground. But in that case, a lot of people who party, they're seeing it further and further from the source. And the values of what happened at the warehouse, and for us, the focus of this one is to connect that more, to get people. So if you're partying at Ushuaia in Ibiza, that's awesome. I've done that. But you're partying at Ushuaia, it's like, oh, to kind of have this started in Chicago. You don't even have to think about Chicago. You have to think about the values. So it's not just like this thing that is, I hate to say whitewashed, but things that's just like, yes, there has to be something more than because like people at the warehouse were definitely partying to get fucked up. That's okay. They did that, and that's totally fine. But there's also more to it. They're using it as a safe space to do something that they weren't allowed to do anywhere else. So really, like another part of it, we're also trying to celebrate, focus on Chicago, giving like mentors the ability to give back their experience to people who are coming up in the scene, and also people who don't have the means to go to IMS in Ibiza or ADE in Amsterdam, because that's really expensive. So to be able to give that locally, it's a huge deal for us.
So you're going to have some, maybe panels of Chicago house artists, and it'll be really focused on the history of the music, I would say.
There's
or like just the whole, not just the surface level of music, basically. It's a whole thing, a whole story.
Yeah, for sure. There's a number of different panels. Like we have Viva Acid. They're a local group who do, they have a great event in October, and they throw events throughout the year, but they're leading a panel on preserving nightlife culture in the modern era, like just basically on this topic, and with a number of like heavyweights in the scene. A couple that I can't name yet, that we're still to announce, but one of my favorite is like on dealing with failure and longevity in this industry, and with some other heavyweights, one on mentorship, one on music production and creativity. So it's like kind of all over. So things that people can use, but also discussions that scratch the brain, that get you thinking about that this is just more than just a money-making endeavor, because there's a lot to this other than a career.
And we've talked about like making money and having a day job a little bit, but I mean, that's probably one of the hardest things, to be a creative and, work hard at your day job and then have to have some kind of mental capacity to make creative output later. That's something I struggle with.
Sure.
But how do you navigate that? I mean, you have a mentorship program, so maybe talk about that a little bit, or just some advice for artists coming up.
Yeah, I mean, my mentorship program started like right after I left that main day job in cannabis tech, and there's a part of me that was just, I need to give this back. I need to teach. And I put a profile in this thing called, I forgot what it's called. It's now closed down. But it was just a profile on a website, and I was doing virtual, like remote lessons, and I was teaching people the initial, like more of a like mindset coach on how to DJ. And I have like a mentee group of like, I think 6 individuals.
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
And it's not like something that I really promote heavily, but like these core group of individuals are something that like really, I've kind of become like somewhat of a life coach to some of them, and because I'm able to, yes, the DJ part the technical parts are important, but also there's so much more to it, and having the mindset is like equally as important. I've just gone through so much as an artist myself, and like as you said, like the hard part is learning how to balance both. And I think I'm still learning how to do it.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah. yeah. And there's a lot of advice that I would give back to myself after leaving a day job that I think people would, yeah, it's just something to learn. So live and learn.
Yeah, you mentioned like the spiritual aspect of things. Like, just talk about like reading a crowd and like what it means to you to like connect with people on the level as a DJ, you know, through music. Like, why do you enjoy that, and like why is it special to you?
Yeah, I think it's just about. I feel like at that moment in that Laurent Garnier set, like I was tapped, like, hey, like you, John, have a gift and you need to like start sharing that. You need to give that back to people. And seeing people in a crowd when they realize they have that magic too, it's just like, oh, like, yes, that's like what it's about. And I think I love giving that, and showing people like what you can do with electronic music. It's not just, I think everybody likes electronic music, but they don't know it. Like you talk to people and it's like, I hate electronic music. It's like, well, have you heard Deep House? Have
There's
you heard
probably something out there for you.
There's something out there for you. And it's about like an artist who can like see where you are, and then, because there's a lot of artists who could just like, this is what I'm gonna play, and if they don't like it, they can get lost. And it's like, I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, and one thing that he likes to do as an artist is like a different approach. He sometimes plays an aggressive track at the start to kind of clear the people. It's like, I don't need you here. Like, get out of here. It's like, oh, and then from there, he'll attract people in. For me, I'm the opposite. I like to see, okay, cool. Like, you guys are just chilling over there. Okay, cool. Like, you're gonna like this. And then just try to get people to, and then by then, it's like that, the dance floor space that you, like from that movie, We Are Your Friends, like that resistance, it's like from something that used to be so hard when you start, you can just do it on like a blink, like a snap of your fingers. Is a really cool thing to do.
For sure. How do you know when to switch from house music to like some liquid drum and bass? We didn't talk about your drum and bass interest at all. But would you ever like just go into D&B, or is that something kind of you do on the side of like, you know, your house music?
Yeah, definitely something I'm doing on the side. I actually created a new alias for that. Okay. And it's the alias name is Azuero. It's Azuero. It is the Azuero Peninsula is where I'm from in Panama, and I just wanted to call back to my roots and heritage in Panama, and also it's like right now I'm at a point where it's just probably important to like differentiate, because right now drum and bass and house are just, I mean, I wouldn't just switch that in the middle of a set. That's something that I would do like one set or another. Right. Yeah. And so it's like definitely something I felt, when I started listening to like Avicii, I've also found like Netsky and a number of other, and it wasn't really till like a couple of years back that I saw one of my favorite DJs and producers that I haven't mentioned, JRynecki from France. He makes incredible like minimal house, but also he makes the best drum and bass. It's like, oh, you could do both? Like, hell yeah. So that's kind of how I fell into it again. It's been really cool to enjoy that.
I think you kind of have to enjoy different kinds of music to like stay sane, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think it just kind of gives you a different perspective on the music you're making or really listening to a lot. It's just nice to have a different kind of vibe that you also enjoy. And that kind of just like adds to everything also.
Absolutely. I mean, like I don't think everybody should be listening, not everybody. Like, imagine just listening to the same thing all the time. You'd probably get
That's
bored.
What most people do, right? I listen to the radio in my car. Yeah. Shit. All these early 2000s hits, man.
Yeah, people like what they already know, though. Right. So it's like people, you fall into, it's safe, it's comfortable. But it doesn't mean there's a lot of different genres that you could do with that. I mean, it's not just like one. I can't just listen to house all the time. I mean, it's like, it's about learning and growth as well.
Right. I mean, you're interested in like kind of R&B a little bit. You have two remixes of Craig David songs.
Yeah.
So like, what are some maybe non-electronic songs or artists that you've been enjoying lately?
That is something that, yes, in terms of...
if you just listen to electronic music, that's cool too. But like, what's kind of something you've really enjoyed, like, or listened to a lot more than usual? Or an artist, or... Yeah,
I love Thievery Corporation.
Yeah, they're dope.
Yeah, Thievery Corporation are always like for cooking. I love Bossa Nova for cooking as well. Classic jazz, huge fan, big fan. And also just like I like you mentioned my Craig David remixes. I love to slice an edge of pop because I think pop is just it's so fun. I say that I don't always listen to like the main hits, but I appreciate the producers. Like I don't know if Taylor Swift produces or I'm sure she has producers, but like it's so catchy and like there's things about it that like, oh, okay, I understand why this sells so well. But just I like to listen back to some older hits. Like one of my favorite pop songs of all time is Christina Aguilera's "Genie in a Bottle." If you listen to the synths, it's so fun.
Yeah.
And that's like one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, I mean, production in pop music is oftentimes really, really impressive and very hard to do.
Yes.
But let's just talk about you more. Like, what do you have coming up later this year? We're in February of 2025 right now. So where do you see yourself this year and like, past, far into the future also in the next couple of years?
Yeah, good question. I have 2 gigs in Panama next month. I'm there for 2 weeks. One in like a beach club, and then one in I'm playing at one of my first festivals. It's called Tribal Gathering. It is it's a large electronic music festival, and it's not really well known for house, but it's known for like drum and bass and a number of other genres and psytrance, and it's on a beach as well. Very excited for that one. The main focus, I think, for this year has been Chicago Electronic Music Conference, getting that off the ground, and very excited for that. It's going well. But later in the year, I have my first EP will be released on a German label. Very excited for that one. I don't have a date yet, but in terms of later this year, I'm also just, after this conference, I just kind of want to like
That's probably
be
the
a normal.
on your mind right now.
I want to be a normal person.
Out, so.
Yeah, I want to be a normal person for a bit and kind of, I don't know, being able to just go out to dinner and not have to think about work, or just being able to enjoy the summer without thinking about another project. I've also been involved with a project called Beat Retreat, which is a retreat for DJs and producers in Dominican Republic. And we were supposed to do one in February. We weren't able to do it this year, like this month. So we've actually postponed it to another time. But like, once I have more bandwidth, that's another huge project for me that kind of changed my life in a lot of ways. Attending the first 2 retreats, it's in the Dominican Republic, and being able to pass on that knowledge and give a space to other individuals in a different setting is something that like I want to give more back to. But over the next couple of years, the main thing is like really to keep working my artist project, do a little bit less, don't say yes to everything, make sure projects are spread out so I have time to be a normal human. And I do want to DJ more, because I kind of put myself like on a like radius clause in some regards, because I'm focusing on like this conference. I'm like working a day job and stuff like that. So I do want to be sometimes 1 to 2 times a month, but I think I kind of want to maybe 2 to 3 times a month. Who knows? And growing CEMC, because we want to become the Amsterdam dance event of Chicago. And to do that, it's going to take. I met the nightlife mayor of Amsterdam at ADE this year. It's like an honorary position that some cities have. He runs a group called Vibe Lab. But I sought this guy out, had a meeting with him, and he was giving me advice on how to maybe organize CEMC for the long haul. And he was like, don't burn yourself out doing this. Do this like 1 to 2 days a week. If you're doing more than that, you're definitely doing too much. Think of this as a 10, 15, 20-year project. Go slow. And think of this also for your artist career. It's not something that you're going to do tomorrow. So for me, even though sometimes I am working on this a bit too hard, it is on my mind that I do need to like ask for more help and like develop this to a point where we can make this. Because this year, like I mentioned, the focus is on the scene in Chicago. But also by next year and years following it, we want people to come into it and see it.
Sure. So for someone that's listening now and just hearing about CEMC for the first time, what's the best way to support you or get in contact with you?
Tickets are on sale as of yesterday. GA is like on sale until we sell out. We have 265 tickets, so it is. And
it's the current tier is sold out, right?
Well,
it's been going well so far.
Yeah, Ticket of Trust for $25 sold out, but now it's like $40 and up. And for the amount of value versus like education, music, 14-hour event. So it's $40 instead of like being able to go to like having to spend 500 euros to just attend ADE, not including the flight or hotel. It's really bang for your buck. And like it's on our website, chicagoemc.com, CEMC Chicago on Instagram. We were just featured in Mixmag over the weekend, last weekend. So big things coming.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And we're about to hop over here, and you're going to play a DJ set for us. Hype that up a little bit before we go.
Yeah, excited to play. Like, I love opening up a room, and especially being open. Like, one of my, like I mentioned, Laurent Garnier, and he's like, sometimes like I don't ask for an opener. He's like, I heard that, I met him in Amsterdam this year, and he's like, that's impressive. I love that. Like, why? It's like, because I like to be able to control the vibe of like what the room will be, and it's because and that's like for tonight. It's not a long event. We're going till midnight. It's I think 8 or 9 now, 8 now. So I think being able to like start the vibe and it turns into it's not a form of like control. I know that may sound like that, but it's really to just like create the aura of the room and start it out is like such an honor, and I'm really happy to do that.
Well, you're going to start out the new mix series on Premier Music Podcast.
Hell yeah.
That's dope.
Let's do it.
And yeah, thank you so much for being the first guest on the show.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the set.
Absolutely.
Cool,
Thanks.
man.